Good morning, everybody. My name is Roland, and I'm going to be presenting a vulnerability management program to the KampusPay Board of Directors. So, for today's presentation, we are going to be looking at the program objectives to include the current risk landscape for KampusPay, some of the key components for the vulnerability management program, some tools to be utilized as well as emerging technologies. Most importantly, some government rules to be adhered to, reporting, and of course, roadmap for next steps. So, in a program objective, one of the main things we want to be looking at is how can we reduce organizational exposure to cyber threats. We all know that cyber threats are such a huge thing today, and as an organization, we need to devise ways through which we can reduce our exposure. And most importantly, we want to be able to secure our customers and employee data, some of which could be covered by HIPAA regulations and other government regulations. We all know that employee and customer data contain or have personal identifiable information, which can be very, very detrimental when it falls into the wrong hands. And most importantly, we want to look at our readiness to support cloud operations. Looking at the current landscape of Campus Pay, we were able to realize that there are a lot of unpatched systems across the enterprise, which could really pose as a risk to the current landscape of Campus Pay. Unpatched systems open up a huge backdoor of vulnerability that attackers could use, to perpetrate a wide level enterprise attack on the environment. So patches are definitely something Campus Pay should consider, either bi-weekly or monthly patches. We were also able to discover that the API connectivity to the AWS backend exposes the company to cyber threats or cyber attacks. In this case, we would need to use some kind of a third-party monitoring tool like CloudWatch to be able to keep an eye on the backend data for the API calls to AWS. Um, Another critical factor to look at is our remote work staff. By virtue of the fact that we have um, employees working remotely, it also opens up the door for some kind of an attack because 9 out of 10 human error or human factor would contribute heavily to a cybersecurity attack. In this case, you have employees connecting over unsecured networks, or in some cases, failing to secure the environments, probably exposing usernames and passwords. For the program component, we are going to lay emphasis on asset inventory and classification. I strongly feel like having an inventory of all of the assets for Campus Pay and classifying them into the respective zones would really help in terms of um, looking at which assets take priority over the other in terms of managing the vulnerability for that specific asset itself. Patch management lifecycle is something we really need to look into. For instance, Microsoft has Patch Tuesdays, as I believe every second Tuesday of the month. That is something we need to incorporate into Campus Pay. We need to have some kind of a patch management life cycle. Um, Looking at uh, code review and the software development life cycle, it is also something we should be looking into, especially in today's world where most environments practicing agile. We need to increase our skill in software development lifecycle and code review. Have like tier one code review and the tier two code review before we start pushing things into production to make sure we get rid of every vulnerability and every inconsistent code that attackers could make or take advantage of. And in my opinion, most importantly, is continuous monitoring. To be able to 100% secure your environment, you should be able to continuously monitor that environment. I feel like being proactive will save the day as opposed to being a reactive individual. So when we talk about asset inventory and classification, what we're mainly hoping to achieve is to have a centralized tracking of all endpoints, all servers, all cloud resources, all virtual machines, which ones are active production environment, virtual machines, which ones are for stage environments or testing or development environments. The idea is to be able to categorize all of these resources into high, medium, or low category that can enable us to be able to identify or come up with some kind of a risk-based prioritization. That way we don't spend too much time um, looking at resources in the test or development environment when we should be spending time looking at, servers or endpoints, IP addresses that are being cloned that are supposed to be for production environments only. Regarding our patch management lifecycle, would like to implement a standard patch across every environment. We're looking at implementing standard patches monthly across enterprise production environments for emergency patching that they could fix a vulnerability that was detected. We are looking at applying emergency patches within 48 hours for critical vulnerabilities. And most importantly, we want to be able to keep track of which resources have met or are patch compliant. So in this case, probably we build out a Power BI dashboard to track patch compliance across departments. In order to secure software development lifecycle and code review, I feel it would be important to integrate static application security testing as well as dynamic application security testing into a CI/CD pipeline, which will help identify security vulnerabilities early and continuously throughout the software development lifecycle. In order to effectively secure campus pay resources, such as the servers, the virtual machines, and the cloud computing, we propose outsourcing a third-party risk management vendor, having some kind of a contractual security requirement with the third-party risk management vendor, as well as annual attestation of security posture to make sure they're up to date with security licenses, and most importantly, continuous monitoring of vendor-related vulnerabilities. So, continuous monitoring is a very important part of the vulnerability program because implementing robust security controls and not following up with continuous monitoring is pretty much useless. So for Campus Pace program, we are going to implement a CM integration for alerting, which is a security information and event management that is pretty much going to collect logs, detect threats, and trigger alerts based on defined rules and behavioral analytics. So what a SIEM is going to do is it's going to collect logs from like firewalls, servers, cloud platforms if we do have them, and it is going to analyze them and Depending on the same rules that we provide, it is going to send out alerting, keeping us on our toes pretty much. There is a need for tools and emerging technologies here at Campus Pay. For that reason, we're going to be looking at certain tools, especially Qualys for a vulnerability tool. Qualys is pretty much going to scan every server that we have, every enterprise-wide server, and look at vulnerabilities and try to assess them based on priority to see which one can be high, which one can be medium, or which one can be low. In terms of patch management or patch deployments, we can use the SCCM or the Intune tools, and GitHub. We can use GitHub. Sorry, we can use GitHub for software development lifecycle and code reviews, and as well as Splunk for Azure connectivity. And when it comes to ticketing, instead of putting in requests through emails, we can come up with a easy ticketing management systems such as Jira or ServiceNow. Those ones are pretty much employee friendly. We can use that and record our tickets. And as a matter of fact, we can even use that as a documentation tool for the company. So with governance and reporting, we are pretty much talking about standards and chain of command, in my opinion. When I talk about standard, what I mean is um, our mode of operation, service level agreements, the course of actions to take in case something happens. Say, for instance, we have a vulnerability, we just detected a vulnerability through QualiScan. Now, does it fit the requirement to be considered a high vulnerability? If so, then we can know that we have seven days to be able to address that issue. Is it a medium vulnerability? Then we have 30 days. Is it low? Then we have 90 days. But is it critical? Then we know that we have 48 hours or less to be able to address that. So this will fall under governance and reporting. Now, should we exceed its SLAs? What is the next course of action? Who are we reporting these delays to, these roadblocks to? The chain of command, how are we escalating issues that go past the regular SLAs. Now, the idea of coming up with a campus pay vulnerability management presentation is to set a standard, have a roadmap, and possible next steps for the future of the company. So when it comes to the roadmap, we need to develop a full asset inventory baseline. What do we have? What's missing? What should we acquire more? We also need to integrate CI/CD into the current workflow structure for Campus Pay, and more than likely, we'll need to expand on automated patching. Yes, we need to build a dashboard to record all of our patches and the timelines, because we might require different kinds of patches. We might require hot fixes. Some servers could require cumulative updates, and a full service pack. So we actually need to come up with a way to automate these patches and keep records of them. We need to also enhance API and mobile application security testing, as well as manual penetration test, because it is never enough to say my environment is fully secured, right? We will come up with some kind of a penetration test to see and do a comprehensive critique of our security environment.